Hello everyone, and welcome back to Titanic Honor and Glory. This is Demo 3, which has just landed, available for everyone on TitanicHG.com. This is, I believe, the final public demo of this game. There may be a demo coming in the future for backers of this project or people who've pre-ordered it. I think there is. Not 100% sure, feel free to fill me in on that, but I believe this is the last one they have planned for everyone to try this project out. And this is somewhat different to the previous two in the sense that it has outside the ship areas. It has Harland and Wolff Shipyard in Belfast, which is where the Titanic was constructed. You can walk around there and it's quite labyrinthine, then you can board the ship, and on board there is an entire vertical slice of the ship now. So the middle part, which we have seen in the previous two demos, is still there, albeit with a few interesting sort of contextual changes to it. But you can go much lower down, right into the engine rooms. Now, when I play this right here for you guys, I am not going to do everything because it would take a long time, and it would take the fun out of you going and downloading this yourself and exploring. The other thing I will say about this is that it actually has a protagonist now. You play as a specific person in the story of this game, and that person has a voiceover, and the voice acting is horrific. This is probably the first major criticism I have of this project from what I've heard of it. I don't know if this is placeholder or if this is to stay, but I'm hoping this is going along the lines of the Kingdom Come Deliverance beta, which I adored but hated the voice acting. I might be oversensitive to this stuff because I am from the UK, but this is clearly an American person trying to do an English accent, and it doesn't work. It sounds really bad. However, the script is fantastic, and I believe, I could be wrong here again, feel free to correct me, but I believe the script is written by the project lead, who I think is called Thomas Linksey. Something like that. He's a very talented writer and producer, and it really shows in the quality of the script, but the performance is not so hot. It's pretty good in places, but in places it's really not. So anyway, without further ado, I'll start this and we'll have a look.
First the train from London to Liverpool, then a short trip to the docks where I boarded the ferry to Dublin, then the long train ride through Ireland to Belfast. Not a bad ride, but excruciatingly long. Check-in at the guest house in the town proper, quick supper, quick sleep, quick breakfast, and a hop on the local train here to the Harland and Wolff Shipyard. Fortunately, it was punctual. I was worried about being tardy for being 3 hours early. My darling Claire always said to me, "Robin, you better get out of the house right now and go be useful for someone." She always did lovingly encourage me to show up for work early and give my best effort. Titanic is likely no different from the Olympic. They're structurally identical. The Olympic underwent these trials months ago, so this should be a simple repeat. I board, observe her during the sea trials, vote aye or nay on her certification, and then I ride her back to Southampton. Come on, Robin, you can't mess this one up, as Claire always told me.
As Claire always told me. It's not quite as bad as I was making out. On second pass, I think it's alright, but it's really not any better than alright. They really need professional actors, and I appreciate that this is a very small team of independent developers and enthusiasts, but considering the extraordinary quality of what they've been putting together, they can't afford to let things like that drag this down. Because I would, honestly, if the voice acting is going to be of this sort of quality, I'm just going to turn it off. However, this is amazing. Isn't this brilliant?
Let's look at the positive. The weather broke, and now I've been given the opportunity to board the Titanic advance of the trials. This gives me a bit of time to really admire the beauty of the ship before I have to scrutinize every last aspect of her functionality.
Yeah. So, the environmental sort of ambience is incredible, and I love this sort of Edwardian steam engine. It's all historically accurate, down to the very last sort of architectural detail. I will say there is a extremely large number of these wooden ladders. If you look how many there are, everywhere you look, there are these like wooden ladders. But again, it's more to create the illusion of open space in a very linear thing, because this is obviously just like a treatment, if you like. You walk through a path through this area and it gives you a vibe, and it really, really works. The background, the attention to detail is really cool. It's geographically accurate. If you are enthusiastic about the Titanic and you're interested in the history of it and stuff, you must go to Belfast. Belfast is the capital of Northern Ireland in the UK, and it's in County Antrim, which is, again, in the very, very top edge of Ireland. It's a beautiful, beautiful place, and also, interestingly, is the inspiration for Narnia, and for some of the inspiration for Lord of the Rings and things like that as well. So it's an extremely beautiful landscape. I went there a few years ago, and you can go to Harland and Wolff shipyard, which is where the Titanic was built. And there's a Titanic exhibition there where they have a one-to-one exact recreation of the grand staircase that you can walk up, and they also have the final last surviving White Star Line ship, which is the Titanic tender Nomadic. Nomadic was the small boat which ferried passengers onto Titanic when it stopped at Cherbourg on its maiden voyage. So that's very, very cool, because you can go on that. And it's a White Star ship. And it's the last one left.
I find my way aboard. But I suppose there isn't reason for too much haste. No one else has even arrived yet, it seems. Plenty of time to explore, if I desire.
Fine. There are lots of these little...
I'm quite surprised by the amount of confidence the industry is placing into this ship. She's not even certified yet, and her first ticketed voyage is just a week from now. No room for failure on these trials, I suppose. It's like getting dressed up for a date when you haven't even begun your courtship yet. How do you know if you'll be rejected or not? I learned that one the hard way.
Oh, you poor bugger. You know what? The voice acting was alright there. I think I'm being a little bit too harsh on this, but I do have to be somewhat critical, because I've covered this with nothing but praise so far, and I really don't think the quality of the voice acting stands up to the rest of it. Anyway, there are lots of these water toilets. As you can see, a primitive, like, privy toilet which just goes... So when you have a shit, it just falls like straight down into the water. One thing I've just noticed as well, which I didn't notice before, is the clouds actually cast dynamic shadows on the land. It's not that obvious here. Well, it was where I was looking before. Anyway, I'm not going to sort of dawdle too long on this, because I don't want this video to take forever. And basically, I think all of these buildings and things in the distance as well are researched. I think they all kind of actually were there and so on. This next bit with the dock is basically just a labyrinth where you're trying to find the way on board the ship. So I'm just going to go quickly through it. And nice. Old Bushmills. Actually, Bushmills is an Irish whiskey, and the distillery is very near Belfast, and it's one of the nicest whiskies that there is. Bushmills Black Bush, which sounds dirty but isn't, is one of the nicest whiskies I've ever tasted.
Belfast Lough is beautiful. With the hills around it and the morning fog, it reminds me of what I always imagined Puget Sound would be like. A man sure can make a living out in Seattle, if he can hold off the plague.
Cool. So, this is the running speed, by the way. You can walk, which is this speed. So my little finger's basically just perpetually on shift.
Reminds me of my childhood in Sheffield.
I see. What you mean, that in the sense that it's shit. He doesn't sound like he's from Sheffield, by the way. Sheffield is in Yorkshire. If you're from Sheffield, you generally sound like the guy, like you sound like the band the Arctic Monkeys, like Alex Turner from the Arctic Monkeys. He's from Sheffield and he sounds very Yorkshire. Like, it were always raining in Denley Moor.
To extend my travel time. How do I find my way through this mess?
Yeah, so basically you're trying to get to this gangplank up to first class, but when you get up there it's blocked off, so I'm not even going to waste the time doing that. We'll just carry on. It's nice if you explore this stuff on your own and take your time with it, but I just want to sort of I'm going to get onto the ship and then go down to the bottom and then I'll end the video. And that should keep it around a decent time. But this area is basically just like a hedge maze of invisible walls. So I think I'm going this way. It looks very nice. That's just fantastic, isn't it? The way it looks. So epic. It's cool to see it from the outside because it's all the proper scales and so on. So you get an amazing sense of how big this thing is that you're walking around when you're in the sort of cramped corridors and things. It's great to see it like all in one shot like this, and it just looks beautifully rendered. That's no good. Can't go that way. That's the third class gangplank, which is what we're trying to get to. And we can't get there this way. I have to go around here. It's prolonging the length of this walk by being a maze as well. Never mind, eh?
You just can't beat that train carriage arrangement. It really stretched my cognitive abilities. People simply aren't stimulated enough these days. Claire tells me that every night.
What is that? Is that like a joke about his sex life, that he doesn't have any libido? I do think the script is really good. It's like it's
Since
well
the
written.
gangway is blocked, I'll board here through the first class.
Cool. So we board at the third class here. This brings us in at the point where we start the previous demos. Any workmen leaving the ship except by the proper gangway will be instantly dismissed. Shot down. Let's go on board. Here we are. Welcome to Demo 3, and it says the same things on the signboards as in the previous demos as well. We'll just give it a little bit of time here to pop in these textures and for the frame rate to wake up and so on. But
first-class spaces should be accessible at the moment, but I may be able to venture down to third class for a spell through Scotland Road on E-Deck. I believe I'm boarding before anyone else. Robin, right now you're the most handsome man on the Titanic.
Sounds so modest too. It really is. It is a good script. I've got to cut them some slack with that. So you can see there's a nice sort of render of the local area outside where we boarded there, which is really cool. And right the way into the distance there, you can see the distance of distant landscape of County Antrim and so on. There are things like porter's trolleys. There are some panels aren't fitted on the walls, and you get the impression that it's under construction compared to the previous demos. You see these things like these barrels and like painters' tables and things blocking the corridors. You can see it's still very much an unfinished ship. So it's cool that in the way they've done this demo is to keep it within the continuity of the Titanic actually being in the Harland and Wolff shipyard. And I love that about it. And I'm just going to... Through these doors, passengers from the tenders at Cherbourg and Queenstown would board the Titanic. Others would disembark at these locations. The first-class Cherbourg tender, Nomadic, is the last remaining ship built for the White Star Line and is currently preserved in Belfast, Northern Ireland. That's exactly what I was saying before. I wanted to read this signboard just to give you that in writing, because if you are passionate about the Titanic and you haven't been to Belfast, do go there and do go on the Nomadic. You owe it to yourself if you want to actually go on a White Star Line ship where Titanic passengers actually set foot and things like that. There is one there, and it's in Belfast, and it's at the museum bit of Belfast Docks, which is called Titanic Belfast. Anyway, there's quite a lot here that is new, and there's quite a lot here that isn't new. And as I said before, it is a whole vertical slice. So, for example,
I especially commend them for modifying the bulkhead. I never cared much for what was on the Olympic.
Now that line of dialogue is clever because the guys, the developers of this game, may have actually discovered something about the Titanic's interior design which wasn't even known about before, which is that these windows in between this lounge and the dining saloon in first class are actually different to those on the Olympic. And they did a lot of research from the few existing photographs and the draftsman's documents and so on, and they got a lot of experts to look at this, and they all sort of came to the conclusion that they might have actually discovered that the windows look like this. That's super cool, but it's cool that the guy has actually done it in game speak, in the lore of in the sort of context of when and where we are. He's actually mentioned that. This is new. Of course. We couldn't go in here before. First class dining saloon. Meal service in the first class dining saloon was included in the price of a first class ticket. Sunday mornings the room would be used for religious services. The saloon was being set for breakfast during the iceberg collision. That info board is from the older demos, but as I say, we couldn't actually go in here before, and it would be really nice if I could explore all this stuff thoroughly in this video, but I'm just trying to keep it as short as I can. So I'm just going to go downstairs. Now, if we go behind here and down towards the Turkish baths, that's very cool. That's like before your iPhone or whatever updated your clock for you. You had to announce it to people to wind their watches back. This way to Scotland Road, crew dormitories and the third class dining saloon. Down there's the Turkish baths. Scotland Road, we've been here before. This was where you go to the third class dining saloon in Demo 2, but we can get deeper. We can get into one of the engine rooms in this demo. And we can see third class bathrooms here.
This is glorious. You can near well see half the length of the ship in this corridor.
That's a good point, mate. I wasn't looking at that nice aspect there. Yeah, you can see toilet cubicles, you can see wash basins and mirrors. So this is, pretty cool. There's a couple of other things here as well. We can still get in the third class dining saloon, and we can get in more of it than before. Down here.
A stark contrast from the first-class accommodations, I should say, but still a major improvement from the other liners I've inspected. In all honesty, I envy these people in the lower class. The world is open to them. They move to America and build their future how they choose. They could be loggers, for example. But father wanted me to be a surveyor like he and his father. No logging for you, Robin. Now wash your ears.
Fair enough. I mean, you know, I get that point. I agree with that. I'm a working class hero. That's one of the developers. That's the guy who measures all of the interior fittings and does all the modelling and design. I think he's called Matt. He may have been the guy who discovered the thing about the first-class dining saloon. Anyway, I'm not going to dwell too long in here because we've already been in here, but there is a bit more to see. If we go this way... Cool that you can see outside. No, at the other end... excuse me, at the other end there is there's a little bit more exposition. You can see some crew dormitories as well, and sort of an area at the other end of this corridor which is going to be very interesting to a lot of people, I think. Yeah. Ironically referred to as glory holes by crewmen of the time due to their often terrible conditions on other ships. These rooms full of bunks were where most of the crew called home for the duration of the voyage. Yeah, it doesn't look too good, does it? I mean, it's alright, but you know. To Boiler Room 5. Yeah, we can get to Boiler Room 6 in this demo, which is basically right down in the guts of the ship. But here...
This open space looks like a fine spot for gathering and mingling between all parts of Europe as they make their journey across the pond to the New World. Perhaps a place on the West Coast, like Seattle.
As you say, and there's another half-drunk bottle of Bushmills there. One of the workers on the Titanic's been going for that. But these scenes are quite iconic of the sort of 97 film. You know, these stairwells where a lot of people were trapped during the sinking. This communal area. It's quite similar to the bit when in the 97 Titanic film when they go to that Irish party and dance around to all that cool Irish jig music and stuff. Just very, very interesting and immersive, and I do love it. So we'll just have a look in the boiler room and then we'll end.
Oh dear, the door is open. Perhaps I'm not supposed to look in here, but I can't pass up this opportunity for a little adventure. Oh, if Claire were here now to see me being so daring.
As you say, mate. So, quite cool that we can go all the way up here as well. Hi there. We can climb these ladders.
How by Edward did I get myself here? Climbing too high, I think. No, Robin, it's not your time to get your angel wings just yet. No, not just yet.
Right. It's like with every line of dialogue this guy reads, he becomes more American and less English. Like, he starts off quite good, but then it just falls apart. But it's still a very good script.
Where are the workers, though? Well, I suppose they're likely firing up the other boiler rooms.
Yeah. So we can get down, I think it's this way.
These machines are massive. 29 on board, propelling the ship through the water like an untamed beast. I anxiously await their performance during the sea trials shortly. Finally free and not held back from anything. No Mr. Tundry in sight. Just freedom.
Yeah, I eagerly await that too. I'm really looking forward to this game. So I'm going to end this video here, but it was very interesting nonetheless to take a look at the third and final public demo of this game. As you can see, there is quite a lot more to explore. I'll put a link in the video description to download this if you want to go and have a look for yourself. Do check it out. There's a lot more to see than what I covered. Still amazingly into this project and really, really excited for this game. the attention to detail more than anything else is quite extraordinary compared to most other games. And bearing in mind, this is a team of like 3 or 4 guys making this thing, so it's a real passion project. And do pay them money so that they can finish this and make it the best thing that it can be as well. I say that in every video, but just to reiterate here, give these guys all of your money so that you have no money left. Thank you very much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this third look at Titanic Honor and Glory. If you did, drop me a like and let me know what you think, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, my friends, and goodbye.